Hi, welcome to
Nerdiest Prime,
where we review all the Next Generation episodes. I'm joined this week by
Lola,
Alan,
Lemire.
and Amir.
In an episode chiefly about following the Prime Directive, the crew break it immediately by contacting the Edo, a primitive but fun-loving alien race inhabiting a paradise planet. After a quick first contact where not only does Tasha Yar make the ridiculous claim to have reviewed all their laws and customs, it's also heavily implied that several away team members have already screwed some of the sex-crazed natives. Questionable judgment continues as Dr. Crusher thinks this sounds like a wonderful place to vacation, and allows her son to go down with the next away team to see if the sex orgy planet is a good place for young people to relax. In short order, Wesley gets into trouble after crushing some new flowers that just happen to be in the current punishment zone, an Edo's system of justice to deter crimes by randomly selecting a secret area where people are put to death for any crime, no matter how minor. Tasha acts shocked to learn this despite it being the first thing she should have learned during her initial review of their laws. But maybe she was distracted. There is a lot of talk about justice and the Prime Directive in the middle of the episode that seems to go on forever, all while a powerful orbiting ship of interdimensional aliens that play God and watch over the Edo are wishing the Enterprise would just go away. For some reason, Picard thinks it's a good idea to bring an Edo lady on board and show her their god, which scares her and angers the Edo god. So not sure what that accomplished. Picard goes down with Crusher and basically tells the Edo he's saving Wesley from execution and doesn't care how the Prime Directive would address this situation. The Edo god prevents their beam up, and it's looking like it might be the end of the young, naive acting ensign, but a brief comment about justice from Riker convinces the Edo god to let them all leave with Wesley unharmed, much to the audience's disappointment.
I just felt like this episode there is a lot to unpack. It's like every line of dialogue you have to pause and be like, okay, there are like consequences. Like I don't mean in the episode, I mean like on my psyche, right? So first of all, the episode starts out like really, they follow every rule. They're really by the book, but they're also the horniest people you'll ever meet. And you're like, cool, let's go down, right? And then Riker acts like the weirdest person ever. Like he's like, like the entire time he's smiling. like he hugs that lady and he's smiling, and you're like, it's so uncomfortable. It's like, okay, cool. Now I know to not let like my little sister alone in the room with you because you're weird. And I don't trust you anymore.
They certainly are fit.
That whole conversation with Worf, where Worf's like, Earth women, they're too weak for me. Like, I would destroy them.
What about plain old basic sex? You must have some need for that.
I must restrain myself too much.
I felt like that was so unnecessary. Like, I don't feel like they had to, like, do him like that. I feel like that conversation didn't need to happen. Like, we already know that Klingons are all about like, they're all like a warrior race, and everything they do has a lot of like aggression and violence. Like they've already made that clear, and I just didn't like that conversation. I also didn't like how Riker was like, it almost sounds like you're bragging.
Also, it's totally inappropriate for your supervisor to ask you about your sex life.
Right. That's another great point. And then also Tasha is like talking to everyone and she's like, it's great here. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you say that. We already know that you're a freak. Like, of course you would love it here. And she fits right in. She's blonde, blue-eyed, like the rest of everyone on this planet. Which,
True.
I'm not going to imply anything, but it's interesting that there is no genetic diversity on this planet. It makes you wonder what happened historically here, because there's no way, and it doesn't matter. Second,
that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought of that. It's true.
Well, because before we started this whole review thing, I went like just online just to see like what other people were talking about. Someone said like, oh, all the planets that they visit that are described as a utopia are always like entirely white societies. And I was like, that'll be interesting. I'll keep that in mind. And so now we have our first one. I don't know if there are more, but I thought it was interesting that someone on the internet pointed that out.
It continues all the way to 1998 for the next 10 years.
That's great.
Okay, let's give Namir a turn.
Yeah.
Namir is making a Sudoku. I felt, or
No, I was making notes. Why do you? I have a paper and a notebook here.
I'm glad to see that you take this seriously, Namir.
I have my notes up here.
I think I like the episode. I understand that there are problems with it, but I have some episodes that I watched when I was a kid that I remember really clearly, and this is one of them. And obviously, it was mainly because that there was, like a race of half-naked people, and I was just hitting puberty, so that was really fun. So I was like, "How is this on TV?" And I remember looking at my dad, and my dad looking at me and looking at the episode, and like he picks up the remote, and he's like, "Should I change this? I don't know. This is kind of on the cusp." And I was like, "I love Star Trek." And he's like, "Okay," and then he put it down. And it's kind of like that, right? But apart from that, I like that it was kind of like a really interesting concept, right? The idea that justice is different from planet to planet. How somebody's how a planet's idea of the law is different, and sometimes it's a little bit more extreme than in other times. Like I tend to like the episodes where they're talking a lot about ideas, and this kind of fit that bill a bit. I also like the sort of left turn with the alien in outer space. I think that was a neat addition. I just thought that the episode was going to be about them trying to navigate everything on the planet, but this godlike character and having this godlike weird spaceship thing in orbit was an interesting addition. So I enjoy the episode, and I've always kind of enjoyed it. So
Yeah, I'm probably with Namir here. I've always liked this episode. I find it entertaining, and I feel like there's a really interesting concept here. Is buried in some unfortunate presentation where it feels like this would be a lot better episode if it didn't have so much emphasis on being sexy.
But like Tasha Yar didn't think of like telling people, like I know she didn't know about the punishable by death, but she didn't bother telling people that's like, oh, like breaking fresh flowers is a law here. Like that would have been
Tasha completely screws up. Her job is security. She should have got basically fired. She really drops the ball on this. She says everything's so cool down there. Everything's fine. She didn't do her homework. She creates this whole situation.
But she claims she did.
Yeah, she starts off saying everything's great about this planet. Their laws are super reasonable. I'm like, how did you determine that exactly? you had sex with that one guy, and then you were like, yeah, this planet's pretty good.
Well, he was a lawyer, so that's what made it make sense.
You know what happened? She essentially just did a Wikipedia search, and nothing came up.
But she didn't read the whole page. She just read the little summary at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good planet, good sex.
Yeah.
She dropped her hat.
They make love at the drop of a hat.
Any hat.
That's kind of like the implication of the episode, right? Is that their horniness supersedes the Prime Directive.
Basically. Well, it's interesting because all the sexual libido themes that are very prevalent in the first season take a center stage in this episode. It's like the sex planet. I'm imagining that the way that Gene Roddenberry saw 24th century humans is that they're also, sexually free and uninhibited. So when they find this planet where people are having sex all the time, they go, oh, this is great. This is like totally up our alley. And it's just strange that the episode starts and the small scouting party have just come back from making contact, and Riker's got this huge smile on his face.
And he looks very sleepy.
Yeah, and the 50% of their report is like, yeah, they're like, they'll have sex at the drop of a hat, or any hat. Like, doesn't seem very professional. We were complaining about Discovery not being professional on the bridge. These guys are being unprofessional on the bridge. I'm sorry.
So obviously there's some issues with the Prime Directive, right? I'm just trying to reconcile how, because they're not supposed to make contact Like how are they supposed to make contact with planets that aren't, because they're
Well,
not
I think-
technologically advanced, right?
I don't think that they had hammered down the details. And when I say they, I mean the writers, not the Federation. But I don't think the writers had really like nailed down like the specifics of how the Prime Directive would work
Right.
until probably season 3. And in season 3, that's when they started really defining it. Oh, if it's a pre-warp civilization, if they haven't, gone to warp, in other words, they're going to meet aliens anyways.
Yeah.
And anytime before that, it's make no contact.
But I also got the sense that the planet didn't realize that space travel was possible and that there were other civilizations in the galaxy. Like they really felt.
But where did they think the Starfleet people were from?
Well, that's my point. That's exactly right. Like how would they know that other civilizations existed if they didn't have space travel? I guess that would mean that other civilizations came to that planet like often for whatever reason. Who knows why they would visit that planet all the time. But isn't that kind of like the implication? Like the planet is like the brothel planet?
Every 2 weeks they stop by.
Yeah, exactly. Just before
would their god ship have a problem with that though?
Well, maybe they just never broke any of the laws. They didn't crush any of the flowers.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Maybe their security officers were a lot more
thorough.
I guess, yeah. But honestly, like it seems like they're not shocked that other civilizations exist, right? Which means that they must have been visited before.
It's like my understanding of the Prime Directive was like no interacting with any species that has not achieved like warp drive. And so I was also really confused. So like how are they allowed to talk to these people in the first place? Because I don't think they've been off world. So I mean I'm just agreeing with you guys. It seems weird that they were there in the first place.
This is the same problem I had with Code of Honor. Like it seems like they're dealing with people who are pre-warp, and the whole Prime Directive is don't influence their development, and therefore being extraterrestrials just landing in the middle of their city and say, hey, that's going to have a big upheaval for any culture who's never met anyone before.
Yeah, totally.
And now the planet has a bunch of little Riker babies. That's going to mess everything up.
The whole gene line.
Exactly.
I just like how it seems like to me that Picard and Crusher got together in a deleted scene, and they said, I think it's about time Wesley had the talk. So let's just send him down to this planet and see if he can just figure it out. And then Picard says, Wesley, I would like you to go down to evaluate this planet for young people.
I'd like you to join the away team to evaluate this planet as a place for young people to relax.
Yes, sir.
And then he gets his first sex ed class.
I want to do something too, with you.
Well, actually, there are some games I don't quite know yet.
When Wesley describes a bat, it's long. That girl.
Do you think that the person who wrote...
It could be every time.
When the person wrote that, do you think that they did it on purpose? Like it was like, this is going to be funny. Or they were just...
If it wasn't, oh man, that was the best ever.
I mean, it does seem pretty conspicuous. Like, why would you even describe it? It's there's clearly some, associations that you can make with it. You can choose anything else. Why not choose a football? Yeah,
I that's what is sad about this episode is how much it assassinates Wesley. Like it just makes him fodder for teasing because there's some games I don't understand yet, and I'm like, really? Like you're 15 years old. It's like you got this hot girl who basically is throwing herself at you. You're like,
Is he 15?
Yeah, he's 15.
Because he acts a lot younger. So I thought he was like 12 but tall.
Well, that's what we were discussing.
They write him like he's 8 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they did good stuff with him in where his name is where no one's gone before, to get them on that path, with the Traveler storyline. That was good. And then they come to this episode and they just destroy any kind of credibility or goodwill you have towards the character because he's so lame.
Yeah. He should know exactly what's up. Not only because, apparently during that time, information about sex is totally open, but also he's got the internet, right? Like, he's got the internet and he knows how to use it. So there's no way he doesn't know what's going on.
Also, his mother's a doctor.
Also, his mother's a doctor. Yeah, exactly.
Like, she would be the perfect person to explain it to him because she would know how to talk about it medically. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, I guess you can chalk it all up to social anxiety.
I want to see that scene. I want to see the sick bay scene where there's like an erect penis diagram on the display. Okay, so Wesley, this is what we're going to explain here. So when a man and a woman love each other very much.
And then Crusher's like, okay, no. We need a mannequin or something. Did into sick bay.
Actually, just walk into this again.
I'm disgusted by you, all of you.
No, Wes!
I thought it was funny when obviously Wesley did not know that destroying plants was against the law, but also why would he like projectile himself into a bed of flowers to catch a baseball? Like, it seemed really dramatic. Like, I would have just stopped, let it fall, and gone and picked it up.
Speak the truth. We are mediators.
He doesn't know. He's from another place.
How very sad.
I'm just wondering, in this, what do the mediators do most of the time? Because they just walk around poison because they say nobody ever breaks any laws so they kind of like the transporter chiefs were just standing around for years, weeks.
Like, yeah. They're just eating sandwiches.
I just wish someone would break a law so we had something to do with somebody to stick this needle with. Because it sounds like nobody breaks the law. So, like, what are these guys doing before Wesley come along and trample their flowers?
Maybe that's why they were so excited.
They were like, they must be just waiting there too, because they just appear. Like, we're mediators, speak the truth. Were you waiting in the bushes?
On the whole planet, this one bed of flowers is the punishment zone, and they're right there.
I guess maybe that's why they're there, because that's the punishment zone that week or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's right beside where they are. Wherever they wherever they drink their Starbucks that day is where the punishment zone is.
Well, wait a second. If you're part of that society, wouldn't you just be like, oh, the mediators are there? That must mean that's the punishment zone. I guess I'll go commit a crime over on the other side.
That's why they're hiding in the bushes, I guess. They just kind of appear.
Yeah, they just pop out of nowhere.
No, but then they attack those mediators. Like, I think they knock them down, and it's like, you would have been dead now too if this was still an active punishment zone. So apparently, in that short span of a conversation, the punishment zone moves somewhere else. It's like, wow, that's very convenient.
Yeah. And how do they know that? Like, who told them that? It's like they didn't check anything, They don't have a logbook.
They have the whole schedule memorized.
I guess so, yeah.
Enterprise to object off our starboard bow. Request that you identify yourself.
And I thought that you'd be really excited, Alan, because this is an episode where Geordi gets to look out of a window. He gets sent to look out of a window.
That's right. I think this is the first time where they make him do that. Maybe the second time.
Yeah, Picard's like, Geordi, go have a real
look at that at the window.
It's like, this isn't like, it's not real.
On the bridge, they're like, Data's like, oh, it's like it's here, but not in our reality or something. It's like half here. And then it says, Geordi, go get a real look out the window. And he runs down the corridor and goes, like, yeah, it's like I'm getting a good look at it now. Like, it's here.
It's here, but it's not here.
Well, it's as if it's not really there.
I'm like, that's what they already said. You added nothing to that.
I feel like they should have like a little trap door for Geordi's head on the bridge. So every time he gets asked to take a look, he can just stick his head out and go, yeah, okay.
Get like a periscope or something.
Like R2D2, yeah, it's good.
Yes, I forgot about that. But yeah, Because they do that one or two more times. That's funny.
I just, by complete coincidence, I just happened to watch the original series, the Apple, yesterday, and I realized that this episode is basically a copy of the Apple. Kirk and Spock and all of them go down to this planet, which is supposed to be like a paradise, and then it turns out that there's a kind of a creature called Vol that they all worship. That ends up just being like an underground computer that controls the planet and makes it idyllic for everybody. And in that episode, Kirk basically breaks the Prime Directive and destroys the computer, basically. So, and this episode is very, very similar, where they go to this paradise planet and they have to deal with this god-like alien that's overseeing the civilization, and then they have to break the Prime Directive. And I think what I like about both those episodes, but especially this one, Justice, is the idea of pulling back the curtain on religion. Like, all the Starfleet characters are kind of like seeing it objectively. They go, oh, from their point of view, they think that's God, but we can see from over here that those are just like interdimensional aliens. And I always like that. It's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, kind of like revealing like what the big mystery is.
No person ever knows where or when a zone will be.
And so no one risks death.
Death?
My first favorite scene is when they first realize that everything is corporal punishment, and you can see it dawning on their face that this is a huge problem. And like Worf is like, "Oh, I gotta go find Tasha Yar," and then he just goes off and he just like runs off immediately to go find her, and she's like having this really pleasant conversation, and he's like, "I gotta talk to you like right now." My second favorite scene is when they meet God and they bring I forgot her name, but she's like the leader of their society, and she sees God. She like falls down. She's doing the praying thing to God. They're not doing anything, and all of a sudden they hear God. He's like, "Let my children go." And then Picard's like, "Oh shit!" And then he's like, "Beam her down to the planet! Beam her down to the planet right now! Beam her down!" That was great.
My favorite quote in the episode is,
Nice planet.
when all the adults are being like super like flirtatious and like awkwardly like all sexy. "Oh, what kind of games do you like to play? I like to play games. What kind of this kind of thing." And then finally Wesley's like, maybe I should just go on. Oh.
Shall we go there now or remain and play?
Play?
Maybe I should just go on ahead.
But the one thing that I miss is any sort of explanation on what they're doing and why they're doing it. I know there were some guesses, but there was never like Data was never like, they're probably doing this, blah blah blah, and this. Like I think the episode would have been stronger for me if there was some answer.
Sometimes you don't get all the answers, though.
But it's a TV show. I can have all the answers.
And they do a similar thing in Who Watches the Watchers in season 3, but it's done a lot better. And the other theme in this episode that I don't know if we sort of touched on a little bit, because the name of the episode is Justice, is really the theme that absolute justice is unjust, which, it's actually a pretty interesting philosophical idea to think about.
I wasn't a big fan of was the resolution at the end. So I was expecting some sort of clever kind of way around it, or some sort of longer kind of deliberation on, the ethics of this, and then, convincing the Ito's guy that this is just. But it essentially was just like Picard saying just like one line, and then Riker coming in with a zing, and then it changed the alien civilization's minds. And I don't think that was enough. Like, I think there should have been like a little bit more. Like, it seemed like the episode was ripe for like a trial of some kind at the end, where they could argue cases and have that sort of kind of dynamic. But didn't pan out that way, so I was a little disappointed. I always like to see courtroom Picard.
It's a bit of a ripoff because the solution is just like, oh, we'll just break the Prime directive. Like, oh, I didn't know that was an option. If that was an option, then I would have solved the problem at the beginning of the episode. Like,
yeah,
the whole point of the whole episode was that wasn't an option, so they had to find a way around it, or they had to do something, and then they were like, well, you know what? No, let's just break it.
And then they just beam away. It's like, well, that's the whole point of Prime Directive, is not to affect alien societies, and they basically just begged you not to destroy their justice system.
I wish they had done like a follow-up episode where they go back to the planet like 2 years later to see kind of like the repercussions, and it's just like an apocalypse. Everybody's running around, committing crimes, breaking windows.
All because Wesley trampled some flowers.
Yeah,
He couldn't
exactly.
play baseball right.
Yeah, exactly. Because he couldn't talk to girls.
One thing that I've always found frustrating about this episode, which is kind of like a love-hate thing, is the model for the Edo God space station, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't look like it's a thing that an interdimensional being would live in, because it seems like it's one person that's like, I'm God, let my people go, all this kind of stuff. But it looks like a space station.
They established that it's like more than one being. It's like almost a hive mind, one person and many at the same time.
But it just looks like a space station. It's like a really cool space station with all these
but
little
they were
lights.
like, oh, it's like it could be a future version of us or of the Eidos, which means they could have just built the space station and then figured out how to make it half in reality, half out of it. And they were just using the space station they already had.
Maybe it's the same species as the Caretaker in Voyager. Huh?
Oh,
yeah. Basically, Caretaker doing the same thing with the Ocampa. So
it must be a very guilt-ridden species. They're just like, well, I'm just taking care of people all over the place. They're real rescuers and enablers, those interdimensional beings. So, anyways, I just want to, as a little piece of trivia, that model comes back and is used, I feel, more appropriately in the season 5 episode Conundrum, where it actually is a space station or a command center, and I like it a lot better in that episode.
They used it again?
Yeah, they always reuse things. It's a TV show.
But do they like put it upside down or something, or is it clearly recognizable as the same thing?
No, they're clearly recognizable. It's just not transparent. It's not like
it's solid just like in that one.
Solid in that one. The Edo planet was filmed in the Japanese garden at the Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, which is right here in the San Fernando Valley. And it went on to be used as Starfleet headquarters for the remainder of the series, and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. So anyways, it's a great location, but I find it kind of wasted here. It's a way better Starfleet command.
It's a gorgeous location. That's one of the things I like about this too, is that they actually do some location shooting, because their planet stages really are terrible.
I think this was the first location they ever filmed at, the first on location shoot they ever did.
Well, other than the holodeck in the first episode, but yeah.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me, Helen.
That's what I'm here for.
Keeping me on the straight and narrow. There's an actor, Josh Clark, that goes on to be Voyager's answer to Chief O'Brien, Mr. Carey. And he's in this episode, and he also wears a mustard uniform. Do we think that he's supposed to be Mr. Carey in this episode that served on both the Enterprise and Voyager?
Yes.
He could be the missing link between the two ships.
I think so. It's by the same logic as that the con officer in Encounter Farpoint is O'Brien. Like, it seems like the whole senior staff went down for this thing. Like, everybody's there.
Yeah, wouldn't you too if you went down to a good time planet? I'd be like, I'm going down.
They aren't having a good time then. That's when Wesley's in trouble, and like Picard's there, Riker's there.
Oh yeah.
Let's do our ratings.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to give this episode. I'm going to give it 3. I'm going to give it a 3.
Well, at least you give it more than Lonely Among Us. That's
well, yeah. So that's sort of what I'm comparing it to, because I liked it better than Lonely Among Us. It's not a 4 episode. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's better than a lot of episodes. There's still problems. I enjoyed it. Solid 3 starships.
I don't know what to rate it, because like it was I found it really funny. So like I enjoyed watching it because I found it really like hilarious and weird. But like I don't know if that's like the right way to like rate the episode. I think I'll also give it a 3, you know? And I don't know, it made me realize a lot of things about the main characters.
Yes, we did learn a lot about the main characters, how unprofessional they are. I'm like, I don't know who jumps into bed with an alien that they just met. I mean, maybe Kirk, but you know,
Well,
it just
I
seems
think
so,
they've done that a lot. They've
so
had
ridiculous.
like a lot of interspecies like relations.
I've never met some group of people for the first time and said, yes, take our clothes off. That just doesn't happen. And if you're a space explorer, like I'd be like, well, we should probably do some scans, see if you have any pathogens, our parts are compatible, you know, whatever. I don't know. But anyway,
as far as all we know, that all the genitalia are in knees.
Like I feel like even if they were coming on to them, it's like, oh, hello, newcomers. You know, it's like, oh no, we're just here to talk. Not, I don't kiss on the first date. But anyway, getting to the rating, I guess. So, 6 out of 5.
No, 6 out of 5. 6 out of 5.
That's not how math works.
It was that good. It defies mathematics. No, I would give this a 2.5 starships out of 5. I feel like it's not good enough for 3.
Really? You gave Lonely Among Us 2.5.
No, I give that 2. This was a little more entertaining, so I give it an extra half.
Got it.
But
when you get to yesterday's Enterprise, you're gonna have to give that a 7 out of 5.
I know, right?
I give this episode 2 out of 5 because it's just not that good. Every time I watch the episode, I always start the episode being like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready," and then by the halfway through the episode, I'm like, I'm a little bored, and then at the end, I'm unsatisfied, and I'm like, well, maybe next year.
It's like an allegory for my sex life.
Just where is our future? The things we've done